Hello and welcome into the Dave Campbell's College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Yates, and joining me from beautiful Austin, Texas is senior writer Mike Craven. Craven, huge week in Texas college football. We got Red River, UNT's biggest game in program history. Texas A&M takes pole position right now in the SEC, but can you talk about the stratification between the P4 and the group of 6 conferences? Because one of those sections of college football in Texas doing pretty darn good, and the other one not so much.
Yeah, going into the season, I thought this could be a possibility because I do the all-state team, and we did not return a single all-conference player to the G5. They either graduated, left to the NFL, or moved along in the transfer portal. And you look up halfway through the season, everybody's played 6 games. Rice has played 7, but everybody else has played 6. The Power 4 in the state of Texas, which is 7 of the schools, is 33-9. The G5 is 15-22. That's 6 schools. We have 8 schools with winning records right now. 7 of them are the P4 schools. Like every one of the P4 schools is 4-2 or better. The G5, North Texas, is the only one with a winning record, right? And it's really gotten bad in conference play. You know, you understand the non-con, you know, when they're kind of playing some of those body bag games where they're getting paid. But the G5 in the state is 1-10 over the last 2 weeks, and that's basically when conference has started. So it's been a bad, rough start to the conference window for UTSA or not for G5. And mind you, that one win is UTSA beating Rice, so beating another Texas G5 school.
I know that some of this is just a national trend of the haves getting more and the have-nots getting less, but that seems particularly stark in Texas, right? Because you're talking about conference play, they're faltering.
Right. It's one thing if it's just a separation in non-con where there's fewer and fewer upsets of the G5 to the P4, and that gap gets bigger and bigger. But these are losses in UTSA is losing to Temple. Rice is losing to FAU. Texas State to Arkansas State and Troy. Sam Houston and UTEP to basically everybody that they're playing. And so now, if you take away the Conference USA schools, everybody else is 14-11. So it's about average outside of Conference USA. UTEP and Sam are dragging that down.
Yeah, there's a Conference USA anchor right now. Craven, how was your weekend, though? Because you went to 2 games. You went to UNT's biggest game, I think, in program history against number 24 USF, and then went straight into Red River rivalry. What was that like?
It was a lot of fun. Not to sound like a douchebag, but I feel like a lot of what I go to football games for now is the experience and the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And you watch enough football, it's football. Great games are awesome, but you don't know what you're signing up for in terms of the football game. But it's really cool when you go to a stadium and there's stakes there, and you can feel it in the air, in the tailgate, in the parking lots before, on the field, kind of walking around pregame and warm-ups in the press box. Like you just can sense when there's something big going on. And at both of those games, it was true. You know, it's always true at Red River. That game matters no matter what. The state fair is awesome. But that was the biggest North Texas game I've ever been at, obviously. You know, and I've been to some games where it wasn't very full and there wasn't many stakes and there wasn't many cars in the parking lot or media members there. It was a full press box. It was a full stadium. It was a really cool atmosphere. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good weekend of football.
We're going to talk about it all right now. Let's start off with Red River. Texas suffocates number 6 Oklahoma. I think that's the best verb for it. 23-6. The Longhorns have held OU without a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games, as Steve Sarkisian will have you know. Look, Texas, I think, was the hungrier, angrier team in this game because a loss could have ended the season. And Sark said in the press conference, there was a lot of shit getting talked about these guys, and they responded. Craven, there was a lot of shit talking about Sark himself and his 2-8 record against top 10 teams. What did this mean for Texas, but also for Sark?
Yeah, I think it stops some of that noise, maybe until you lose the next big game because it's Texas and it's always going to be there. But this felt like the biggest non-playoff game of his coaching career at Texas. Because think of what we're talking about today if it went the other way. If Texas's offense looked like Oklahoma and they scored 6 points and the Sooners win that one 23-6 by dominating in the second half and just owning the third quarter, running 26 plays to 4 and just completely dominating the second half, we would be sitting here having some real conversation. You would hear it on national podcasts and everywhere like that. And so not only does this save the season, I think it keeps people from doing kind of an autopsy, like a deep dive into some of those big games and what it is. Like Texas is still in SEC contention. They're still in CFP contention. They looked like a team at times where you're like, oh, there it is. Like you could see it coming out. And I really think that opening drive of the third quarter and the third quarter in general can be a kind of a genesis situation for this team, where if they get themselves off the mat and you look at, Georgia doesn't look unbeatable. Nope. A&M's at home, that rivalry is that rivalry. If we're talking about it in mid-November, Texas being right back into this thing, I think we're all going to point back to that third quarter as when it started.
Yeah, I love this quote from your post-game column. You wrote, Texas might not win the national championship in 2025. The Horns might not even make it to the SEC championship game or the CFP, but this is no longer the program that shrinks in the big moments or scurries away when the lights get bright. There is a fight and defiance to this program that didn't exist before. That's all Sarkisian. And I think that's so true because I wasn't at the game, but I talked to a lot of people on the Texas side who were. And they said walking into that game, the Longhorns fans had their tails between their legs a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know how in that pregame atmosphere of the fair, there's always one fan base, like you mentioned, that kind of feels like it can go wrong. And they're being extra nice. And they're saying, well, isn't this just atmosphere great, though? Like the Cotton Bowl, there's nothing like this. Right. That was Texas fans. But the team, to their credit, came out and said, no, we're going to go out there and punch them in the mouth.
And I've grown up around this rivalry. Like I've probably been to like 25 of these since I was a kid. I'm 40 years old. I've probably been to over 20. And Texas was always the Oklahoma in this scenario, where they were supposed to win. They were ranked in the top 10. Oklahoma's having a disappointing year, and Oklahoma would just walk in there and bully them and just kind of drag them into an alley. And Texas didn't have that fight, and now it's turned. And Sarkisian has put that implant on this football team that, he's kind of a tough, hard-nosed, hard-ass. Like that's kind of Steve Sarkisian at the end of the day. I mean, and I think his team plays like that. And it reminded me, I think when we talked about this leading into the game, it reminded me of Georgia at Texas last year, where Texas wanted to win, Georgia needed to win. And it absolutely felt like one of those, our season's going to be done by mid-October if we don't go win this football game.
Yeah.
And to their credit, they walked out there and won that football game.
I saw a video on Twitter X of Arch Manning saying, we needed that one, Holly, to Holly Rowe as they're singing the Eyes of Texas at the end. I did love Sark was talking his stuff in the post-game press conference. Yeah. He also said he's happy John Mateer played because there was no excuses. You don't want to hear any excuses after that. So that's the type of
the correcting of the no touchdowns to 3.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But this is the type of swagger I like to see from the Texas coach. And I know he's doing this after a win, so that's one thing. Rather than the last week where it's saying, well, I'd like to see all the other teams go play Florida and Ohio State in the Horseshoe and see what their record is. Like, this is the type of swagger this team needs.
I agree. I think sometimes we need to remember that he's not talking to us. He's talking to his team. And I think last year was a reminder to them that it's not over and that they don't suck. Like everybody's trying to bury you, but you lost at Ohio State. You lost at Florida. We can go figure this thing out. Oklahoma's not that great. We can go do this thing. I think that was more, I think in a back room, one-on-one with Sark sitting in his office, he would have given you a different answer. Right.
Yeah,
but I think publicly he knew this is a young football team that's still figuring it out. I think the old group, the 2024 group, he would have lit us up in the media. Right. He would have used that as an opportunity to challenge his football team. I think with a younger football team, you have to coddle them a little bit. He's going to start a true freshman at left guard. He's got a quarterback going into his first start in Red River, and that can always be – we'd probably look this up, like first-year starting quarterbacks in that game, right? I guess Mateer was as well, so that washed out. But I think after the game and after they win, now he gets to send a different message, right? And now he's trying to keep that momentum up and build it, and don't let anybody take this away from you, that John Mateer's kind of hurt or not hurt. Like he played the whole game, and Texas dominated it. Like especially that second half, like that did not feel like a fair fight.
Do you want to start with the young offense or do you want to start with the defense? Because, okay, the defense is basically the 85 Bears right now. The offense, I think, is the more interesting storyline because it's not just so dominant. Like, what do you want to start here?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about with the Texas defense. That's what we thought it was going to be. We talked about after Ohio State, Texas was going to have to win these type of games where the defense just dominates and they score 20, 23 points and they win kind of old school SEC games. I thought if we were a national podcast, we'd be spending a lot of time about how bad the Oklahoma offense is. So I think that's what Texas's defense is supposed to do.
I have some on Brent Venables here in a second when we talk about the Oklahoma offense, but the Texas offense first off. Look, I thought this could be a launching point for Arch Manning from start of the redemption story, from the man synonymous with failure to like the prince who was promised, right? He's taking it on the chin in the first half of this season. And the stat line is not insane. I even talked to some friends who they looked at the box score today and said, he didn't have as many numbers as I thought he did, but he had big time moments. Like he went 11 of 12 on third down for 117 yards and a score. He had the big run where then he starts aura farming and waving to the Oklahoma fan base after that play. And then you get a nice little like ramp up in SEC. And I hesitate to even say this because Kentucky and Mississippi State are still teams that can get you. And we'll really know if this offense has changed based on how they come out against Kentucky and Mississippi State. But it's not like they play Georgia next week. He could have a nice ramp up into Georgia after this, and this could change the season.
Yeah, that's back-to-back games that he's played really well.
I thought he was good in Florida, too. I thought he played really well in Florida, and his team kind of let him down in Florida.
There are many quarterbacks that would have been sacked more than once against Oklahoma. Like he was dealing with some dirty pockets. He maneuvered them. He made some plays on the move with his arm, made some good decisions, I thought. Arch Manning's growing into a solid quarterback in front of our eyes. Not a great one yet. Maybe not a great one ever. But definitely a solid quarterback who can win games in this league and lead a team that can play defense and run the football to big wins. And that is what I enjoyed most from this Texas offense. Arch Manning on third down was a great revelation. That was big, obviously. Trey Wisner having another big Red River was a huge part of this game and how it started to change. Because when Texas is third and long, they got no shot. They have absolutely no chance. But when they're in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, they can make some things happen because they have a quarterback who can threaten with the legs and the arm. Trey Wisner having a big game like he did last year in his kind of breakout against Oklahoma, over 100 yards, a total offense, had 5 catches, which was tied for the team lead. Like he was really good and Texas needed him to be.
Well, the first quarter was straight up Tom Herman offense. Nick Brooks had a penalty, 2 penalties, I think, and then got smoked for a sack. And it looked like the lights were way too bright for him. And I said, oh no, here we go. It's going to be a long day. To his credit, Nick Brooks, he bowed up, was much better as the game went on. And then by the third quarter, they held the ball for 13-26 of game time. That is man-on-man football. That's awesome.
Yeah, they dominated that third quarter, man. Like just absolutely dominated it. Outscored them 10-0. Total yards 140-26. Like you said, plays 26-4. 8 first downs to 1. Just an incredible dominant just coming out third quarter. And they put together a 14-play drive and a 13-play drive in that quarter. And so, and that I think is just staying in front of schedule. And I know that's cliche, but when you're not that explosive in the passing game, and Texas still isn't explosive in the passing game. That's why Arch has 166 passing yards and not 366 passing yards, right? Like they're not an explosive passing game, but you don't have to be in 3rd and 3. And so the penalties and the negative runs are what kill this offense. And if they can avoid those, great. And the other part was, I said going into the game, this was on Steve Sarkisian to win the chalk battle against Brent Venables in the defense, and he did. Mm-hmm. He didn't make Arch Manning sit back there for 4 seconds and have these deep down the field developing routes where he had to wait on it. He moved him around the pocket. He used the short game. He used screens. He ran the ball and he stuck with the run even when it didn't work right away. Like he was additive to the offense, and that was huge because this is an offense I think needs him to be additive.
The throw on the out route from Manning to Livingston was money. That was his best throw of the season. And
there was audible noises made in the press box when that throw was made.
It was nice.
Like it was like, oh, like you could hear it.
And then who was the one where he rolled to his left and threw across his body over the middle, which isn't fundamentally what you want to do, but it was a nice play in the moment. I think was that Livingston too, or
I think it was maybe more. Who also had a pretty good game. But yeah, he got out of the pocket and he made some plays with his arm. I still think he's seeing it slow and he holds on to it a little bit too long, like all that kind of stuff. He's not a perfect quarterback, but he's playing better and better. And there's been many a really good quarterback that wilted in Red River. I mean, we saw one on the other side that didn't play his best game and it kind of got away from him. And that happens to really good quarterbacks in that game, specifically when you played for the first time.
And specifically when you had surgery 17 days ago. Yeah.
Right. And for Manning, he was just clean. He didn't put his team at risk ever. And that is what they need from him.
Let me get talking about the OU team here and Brent Venables specifically. I know we're a Texas-focused podcast, so we're not – if we were national, we'd be hitting this way earlier in our Red River rivalry segment. I think Venables has outcoached himself in 3 of the 4 Red River rivalries. The 49-0 loss his first year where he basically goes Wildcat QB all day when Dylan Gabriel's hurt. I get it. You have your backup in, but he ran like a rinky-dink gimmick high school offense. Then they win the second year. Last year, 34-3 loss in where they benched Jackson Arnold. They just botched the whole Jackson Arnold thing. I get if Jackson Arnold's not your quarterback, but the way it was handled, we're benching him before Red River and then putting a true freshman in, no receivers healthy. I think that was a bad move. And then yesterday, John Mateer, this dude's 17 days off surgery. He's throwing arm punts at the end of the half into the Texas defense, giving away points. I don't know, man. What would you have done, Craven? I know that hindsight's 2020. It's really easy for me to sit here on my microphone and be like, Brent Venables has outcoached himself, but it feels like it does feel like in these games, he's kind of mismanaging the quarterback situation and just not playing straight up all the time.
I think he's got an offensive coordinator wrong up until now. And, when Dylan Gabriel wasn't healthy, he hasn't had a very good offense. I guess I watched Mateer play and thought, well, how bad is Michael Hawkins? Because if they had think of Tech that we'll talk about later and how they have real faith in their backup quarterback to where you wouldn't need to do this because you would just play Will Hammond. If Oklahoma had any trust at all that Hawkins could lead the offense better, I don't think Mateer play. I think they thought the only chance they had was this. And if you watch a lot of John Mateer play, this is what he is. This is what he was at Washington State. When he plays good defenses, he's not that great. That was always true. And he got a lot of credit for beating Michigan and a lot of credit for beating Auburn. But go look at what those two teams are now. They're not good football teams. Oklahoma's not a great football team. And we saw that on Saturday.
And I think that's why when I look at this game for Texas, I'm not ready to say, hey, man, they're back in CFP contenders. I think this is a national championship type team. I don't think Oklahoma's that great. I think Oklahoma's going to lose 3 games to end this year, maybe 4.
I don't think Oklahoma's that great, but I think they're the 3rd best team Texas had left on its schedule.
The schedule is kind of nice to end
right.
the season for Texas.
Right. And so, I would rather play Vanderbilt at home than Oklahoma and Red River. I think if I had to do it 10 times, you get A&M at home, that Georgia game is on the road. But I think it puts them back into contention because of one, just how flat out talented they are. When you have that defense, you were in every game.
Yeah.
And so with that schedule, with that defense, I don't know, nobody's that great. There are a couple
2025 summed up. No one's that great.
And the teams that are great, they already played one of them in non-conference and they don't have to play Miami or Indiana or anything. They can beat everybody else. Georgia almost lost to Auburn. And so I think Texas, I wouldn't bet on them making a run and winning out, making the college football playoff, but they're absolutely in the discussion because they are more talented than every other team they're going to play except for maybe 2.
Yeah, Kirby Smart had to convince the refs he was clapping and not calling a timeout when he was clearly calling a timeout to beat Auburn.
Yeah, they should have been up 17-0. Jackson Arnold fumbled on the goal line. So just not a good player.
I agree with you that no one in college football is really that great this year. That's kind of what makes it fun. Like every team.
Ohio State is.
Well, yes, Ohio State, and then also Texas A&M might be. Like
maybe Miami.
Maybe Miami too. Texas A&M, dude, number 5 in the country. They take a giant CFP step here with a 34-17 win over Florida. They're 6-0. Them and Ole Miss are the only 2 remaining unbeaten teams in the SEC. And Mike Elko says all the right things, the true things. You know, it doesn't mean anything if they don't finish. They did not finish last year, but this season right now is like when Mike Elko got hired. If I had pictured in my mind what is the best case scenario for a Mike Elko era Aggie team, this is it. They have allowed offenses to convert 2 of the last 33 third down conversions. They are running the ball down teams' throats. Marcel Reed is under pressure, 10% of his dropbacks. They have no negative plays allowed, 1 hurried allowed on the offensive line, no penalties. This is beautiful trench football, trench warfare.
If you watch Texas try to block the Florida defensive line and then watch A&M block the Florida defensive line, you know the differences between the 2 teams. They didn't allow a sack. They allowed 1 tackle for loss. No, they didn't have a tackle. Florida didn't have a tackle for loss or a sack in the game.
No negative plays.
Just absolutely insane. A&M may win the Joe Moore Award for best offensive line. They're playing 8 guys too. If you look at the snaps, like they're playing 8 guys. It's not just 5. Like they are rotating in and out. They have a really good unit up there. And for those of us who watched A&M football more than 2 years removed, like from the worst offensive line situation for years in a row, there. That's why they always were missing quarterbacks. And now they got a quarterback who's going into week 7 or week 8, healthy as can be. And I wonder why he's not getting pounded on by the other defense. It's amazing how all that happens. A&M's got a multiple running backs. The Le'Veon Moss thing is concerning. I think him being healthy, like they need him to really reach their ceiling because now if you have him and Reuben Owens, like that all of a sudden is one of the best backfields in the country. It's still really good with just Reuben Owens and Amari Daniels and EJ Smith. I became obsessed with the run play ratio of Texas A&M early on in the season because it just boggled my mind, you know, because you think about this stuff for months and then you watch it and you're like, wow, I didn't even allow for that possibility. Since it's gotten into SEC play, it's looked what I thought it was going into the season. And this was another game where it was predominantly run, 42 runs, 26 passes. Like you said, the third down efficiency on defense, like that's the recipe, and A&M's found it.
And they're running the ball down people's throats, but they also have Concepcion and Mario Craver that just take the top off the defense. Craver had that 67-yard catch first drive of the game. And I think I saw a stat like his 3rd of 65 plus yards on this season, which is nuts. Is Concepcion okay? He didn't get hurt yesterday, did he? I thought something.
I think he's okay. Yeah, over 50% of their yards were on 4 passes.
God, this offense is so awesome.
Right. It is. It is like, and it's not even like chunk it deep because a lot of times it's like after the catch. And then they do throw it deep as well. So a big play offense combined with a really consistent and solid run game, great offensive line. To your point, I do think this has been best case scenario so far for this offense. You know, Marcel Reed made a bad decision late in that game and threw an interception that didn't end up being costly because the defense has been really good. So you just want to see him avoid those. But, you know, we talked about a lot going into the year that we were more worried about the defense than the offense. And we watched the first couple of games and that didn't go away. The way UTSA ran the ball, Utah State moved it around there a little bit. Notre Dame was explosive against the Aggies. But they've really gotten good at situational, efficient, you know, like big play football. And that was the problem last year. They were solid down to down, but they just allowed big plays. They were bad in high leverage situations. They've been good down to down, and they've been good in those high leverage situations.
The season changed on Mike Elko slamming that chair, and I saw on Twitter that Armaj Reed Adams was running around with that fabled chair pregame. So that rocks. Also, speaking of the defense, Torian York on DJ Lagway after the game. It's always cool to compete against someone who people say is the best. Ouch. Yeet. Burn.
Man. Yeah, he's 3-0, I think, against DJ Lagway, so he can talk that talk. He played every single snap defensively.
Which normally he comes off on third down, so that looks like it's changed then.
Yeah, he has been playing all the time. 2025. I would imagine Torian York spent all offseason on dime nickel pass coverage stuff, and it also sounds like he was a little banged up last year, and that kind of hurt some of his top end speed. His athleticism made it tougher on third downs to be in open field, but he's become a complete linebacker. He's going to be a high NFL draft pick. He plays every single down. Like the kid has earned every single right to talk some trash if he wants to, and that's a fantastic quote.
All right, so let's go to the other game you're at this weekend, Friday Night Lights, North Texas. I think they missed what could have been a program-defining moment. You wrote about this in your post-game column. I'm going to ask you about it here. It's 63-36 loss to South Florida. Look, they were 5-0 for the first time since 1959. This is a nationally televised game, college football playoff implications, largest crowd in UNT football history, but Craven, those fans were heading out by the third quarter.
Yeah, and they were still heading in during the first quarter because construction on I-35 is a beast. I'm glad I get places 3 hours early. This is how cruel the sport of football can be. Let me tell you a tale, Carter. With 50 seconds left in the first half, North Texas is winning 21-14, have all the momentum in the world, and South Florida is punting to them. North Texas can either build up on that lead because they can easily score in 40 seconds with that offense, or at least just take it into halftime, leading 21-14. You've turned South Florida over 3 times. You're feeling really great about yourself. Instead, they muff a punt that they should have never fielded. South Florida ties it up with 2 seconds left before the end of halftime, and now you go in 21-21. You've lost all that momentum. You feel down about yourself. And then by the time there is 12 minutes and 35 seconds left in the third quarter, you are losing 42-21.
This is the worst bedtime story ever, Craven.
Yes. I got to get better at this for Lucille. I can't tell her this one at nighttime. But that's just how fast it can turn, and that's how fast it did turn. Like North Texas lost this game in a 3.5 minute span of actual game time. Yeah. It slipped through their fingers. They turned the ball over 5 times. There's levels to this, and I think South Florida is just on a different one. And maybe South Florida is on a different level than everybody in the American. I walked around. I like to do a lap before the game just to kind of see what's going on during pregame. When you walked by the South Florida side, you were like, you don't see many of these athletes in the G5 level. They have a much bigger budget than North Texas, and they spent it on defensive linemen, from what I could tell. Just a different type of athlete. But North Texas hung in there for a while. They turned them over 3 times.
It was fun.
That 28-0 span, that was too big. And then, Mestamaker starts pressing, and it all falls off their trails.
Yeah, well, so after the muff punt, they score, and then they come in the next series coming out of halftime. They run that jet sweep pass and score on that, and it's like, okay, the route is on now. And then those defensive linemen you talk about, they spent their money on return on investment, because Drew Mestamaker, you had this stat I saw, did not throw an interception in his first 164 attempts of the season, and he had 3 in 15 attempts during that game. So you could tell, he starts pressing. He hasn't been doing that this year. This was the first time it was like, I need to play hero ball. I need to put the cape on. And instead, it got away fast.
And quietly, the secret to success offensively for North Texas this year has been balance. They've been able to run the ball with Caleb Hawkins. Mestamaker can run a little bit himself. When they dug that hole, and now all of a sudden you're down 21 points with, a quarter and a half left to play. Well, that run game goes away, and now you get pass heavy. Now the defense can get exotic, do some stuff. They've seen some film on Mestamaker. He's now entering that time of his career where defenses are going to start seeing what he likes to do, where he likes to go with the ball, what his tendencies are, and he's going to have to figure out kind of pitch number 2. And I think South Florida was the first defense that could overwhelm them athlete-wise, and we saw some cracks because of it.
And no one's ever had film on Mestamaker ever, because he never started a varsity game. before.
Yeah,
So this is new
only
for
him playing safety.
Yeah, they have safety film. So there was the interceptions, and then there was also the fumble 6 where the South Florida player had just an all-time taunting penalty. I mean, he earned the hell out of that taunt. That was like what I do to my friends in Madden. Actually, that's what my friends do to me in Madden. Like this, you just run horizontally and waste 20 seconds before you go in the end zone.
Why is that illegal?
I don't know. Because we've just gotten soft as a country, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It was a woke call for sure.
It was super woke.
I don't understand why that's a penalty. He didn't like dance in anybody's faces. He was just, running across the sideline until somebody was close enough. He almost fumbled the ball. Like the North Texas wide receiver almost snuck up behind him as he was doing a celebrational thing. I don't know.
I think it was a penalty because he does that and then gets in the end zone, and then Landon Sides headbutts him.
Right.
And then there was an altercation, and I don't think the refs could have been like personal foul North Texas, unnecessary roughness. So they're like, it's got to be on the South Florida guy because he's so provoked him.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was. I just would have called it the other way, I think.
I do want to talk about the fans and the program defining nature of this game, because I had a mini Twitter X debate with friend of the program, Caleb Yum, the Texas State beat reporter at Austin American Statesman. He does great work over there. He's a UNT alum, so he's coming at this from a side of he's been getting bombarded with Jared Mosley's emails to, pack the stadium, pack that coup. And he basically quote tweeted your column and said, you detailed the risk of going so all in on this one game from the administration. They played all their cards. How are they going to get the fans back on board? And I responded with, from my point of view, and maybe I just don't know this well enough because I'm not getting all the emails he was getting, I don't feel like this was a risk. I felt like it was a necessity. Like the potential reward of this program defining moment that can unite a fan base, I think far outweighs the cost of how are we going to get fans back on board that were never on board in the first place.
Yeah, because the cost is the same.
Yeah, you're back where you would have been anyway.
Right. Like if you don't go all in, there's not going to be more people there for UTSA than had you not gone all in. It was a bummer that the game didn't end with 31,000 people in the stands.
Yes.
The ultimate goal for Eric Morris obviously was to win the game. Their competitors, coaches, and players don't think like this. But for everybody on the outside, the goal was to make that a memorable enough experience to where they come back in 8 days against UTSA. And then you make that one a memorable experience, and then they come back 2 weeks against Navy. Right? And then maybe you're in the American Conference Championship or right there, and you're playing Temple in the end to clinch it up or whatever. It was to carry it on, to move it forward. And one game against a really good South Florida team that got away for you in like a 4-minute span shouldn't end that, right? Like the point of the column wasn't that the North Texas fans should jump off this train. I think North Texas can still win double-digit games. If things fall right, they could have a rematch against South Florida in the American Conference Championship game. But what do I think is going to happen? And that is these stands will look like they did against South Alabama when UTSA comes to town. And if it doesn't, I will be the first one to sit there and talk about how great it was that it didn't end up that way. I just worry that the way that game happened and just the average North Texas student and fans relationship with the football team, it just, to me, recent history has said as soon as there's like a bump in the road, there's not a lot of grit to get back up. You know what I mean?
Caleb's point was that they had enticed alums in the fan base and student body saying, this is going to be different. Like, we are a different team. This isn't the North Texas you've come to know. And then it wasn't different. But I feel like watching that first half, that is different.
Yeah,
that was an awesome first half.
This team is undeniably different than the Seth Luttrell North Texas teams.
Yeah.
It just is. There's no comparing it.
And my point was like, if you're not going to go all in for a game with college football playoff implications, it can be your first rank win since 1959, nationally televised. What game are you going all in for?
And that's not a indictment on the administration. That's an indictment on the fan base.
True.
You shouldn't have to go all in for this type of game. It should sell itself. You should be having to go all in for the UTSA game, right? Like, hey, we just lost a game, but there was 31,000 people there. Let's run it back. Let's beat our rival. We can, this is when you should have to get on the fan base to get their butts to the stadium. The fact that you had to pull out all those stops to sell out a game against the 24th ranked team in the country while you're undefeated for the first time and just since 1959, and you win that game, all that stuff should have been easy. Like, they shouldn't have had to use one single promotion. But they did, and that tells you everything. It tells you that they had to do it.
Yeah, they had to. That's the point. Like, I don't think it was. I just don't think it was.
Franklin's Barbecue doesn't hand out coupons.
True.
Like Rudy's does. You know, and that I just think it's one of those deals where what you were going to be damned if you don't go all in and there's 20,000 people there and North Texas pulls off that win. What is the indictment then?
Yeah.
And so,
then we'd be on this podcast skewering them for not marketing that game and getting fans in the stands. They won that game and there's 20,000 people there.
Yep.
So I think job well done by the administration, personally. Like, you had to do it.
This is just how sports are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you lost a game, he got away from you. There was a 4-minute span there. We got outscored 28-0. Just kind of that happens. Like, that happens to every program. It shouldn't derail the momentum in the stands, but I'm very curious to see what it looks like on Saturday against UTSA.
Here's another team that's having conversations with their fan base. Number 9, Texas Tech. They go 6-0 with a 42-17 win over Kansas. The only thing that can stop this team is the fans throwing tortillas on the field. Like, that's the only thing that can penalize them. Lance Leipold and Joey McGuire get into it post-game because Lance Leipold is probably little sour grapes. They lost that game and mad about
he was saying that a pocket knife was thrown at one of their bench or something like that.
Yeah, that sucks. That's not cool. I mean, tortillas is one thing, pocket knives is another.
Right. Texas Tech goes on 2 21-0 runs in this game. They jump out to a 21-0 lead, play with their food a little bit. Kansas makes it 21-17 going into halftime. Baron Morton, that same leg injury kind of reintroduces itself, and Will Hammond has to come in. But credit to Texas Tech. That could have got funky. It could have gotten weird. But they stepped on the gas again and kind of, went on that 21-0 run. Kind of felt like a basketball game where a team gets out to a big lead. The other team kind of brings them back, and they waste all that energy getting back to the game. And then, the better team kind of puts their foot on the gas again. There are many Texas Tech football teams that didn't have the ability to put their foot back on the gas, like once they took it back off. And I think it speaks to how good this team is, that they can kind of play with their food for a quarter and still go win, cover by a large portion or whatever. I'm bad at math. I was trying to do it in my head. 25 points. But that's going to cost them. Like, I'd imagine if you're McGuire, your message to the team after the game is like, that second quarter can't happen. Like, we have to keep our head on straights and just dominate teams like the way we should.
Yeah, interesting. You do a basketball comparison. This felt like a basketball game with a Kansas team in there. So they even when they're playing football, it's still, we harken it back to basketball with the Jayhawks. Cam Dickey, 21 carries, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, beast. Jacoby Williams had some man needing some milk, according to RG3, when he planted him into the turf. RG3 was an all-time call.
Yeah, I was listening to it on the radio on the way because I was driving back from Red River, so I got to miss RG3. What Texas State was like this when Mac was there, so it shouldn't be surprising. But they're kind of a run-based team in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
They ran the ball 40 times to 28 throws, and it makes it even more true when Will Hammond comes in there because he's got legs. He's got legs as himself. He's a big kid who doesn't mind getting physical. So they really found something with the run game, over 500 yards of total offense. The passing game's still there, obviously. And so we just kind of wait to see what the Baron Morton injury update will be. It sounds like they don't think he's going to miss any time from what I know. So we'll see. I mean, a road trip to Arizona State, one of the toughest games they have left coming up.
Well, and there's also no fans now on the Tech side, I think, calling for Hammond to start either way anymore. Like there might have been a sliver of the fan base saying that after the Utah game. I think Morton played much better than Hammond. Hammond is still very young, of course, and like he's not supposed to be as good as Morton. But you saw where Morton is a nice. I never want to say game manager as an insult. Like you need a game manager for this offense.
Mm-hmm.
They are so loaded. The run game is dynamic. You need a guy like Morton. You've said this, Craven, who's not going to make those mistakes, not going to throw those interceptions.
Texas Tech defense had 9 sacks and 14 tackles for loss.
What am I watching right now? I don't know what to make of Texas Tech's defense playing like this.
It's incredible. I mean, they're a SEC Big Ten defense. They are. That defensive line is nasty. David Bailey, Romello Height, like the interior of that group, the linebackers are so good. I think the secondary is probably the weak spot, but the secondary is fine. It's not like it's weak. It was weak in comparison to how good that front seven can be. It sounds crazy, I know, but this Texas Tech defense is a defensive-led team that can really run the football, and the pass game is complementary. And I was too young to really remember a lot of the Spike Dykes era stuff, and this feels like that, right? Like this feels like a long time since the identity of Texas Tech football has actually been West Texas tough. But it is. This team is just kind of. That's why I called them the bully of the Big 12. Like it's not Utah. It is. Yeah. It is not Kansas State. It is Texas Tech. Like they are the ones who knock now. Like they are really good in the trenches, and that should be scary for everybody.
Yeah, maybe I'll cut this part because I might just be on the wrong side of history here. But back to the Joey McGuire, Lance Leipold thing where they're barking at each other at the end of the game. I kind of agree. Throwing a pocket knife, like what the hell, dude? Stop doing that. But if it was tortillas, and either way, if I'm McGuire, it's like, what am I supposed to do? Right. This is 60,000 fans who are hammered with decades of precedent. Like I am only one man. I'm going up to the media and telling them to stop over and over. Like, what do you want me to do, coach?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to do. I think they created, sometimes I think governing bodies create laws that then are broken, right? It's like you create criminals out of a place that there shouldn't have ever been one. I think that's the situation here. Like now the tortillas are getting thrown extra hard.
Yeah. I'm going to throw them even harder now. I'm going to add a pocket knife.
I'm going to sneak them into Houston Stadium and throw them there. Like it has become kind of a deal. I think they kind of created a bigger issue than it was because Colorado complained about something that probably never even happened.
The Big 12's eluded that too. They used to do it with horns down as well.
Yeah, right.
So,
right. You try to make everybody happy and you make nobody happy. The Big 12 way.
All right, let's talk about another Big 12 team. TCU takes a tumble, 41-28 loss to Kansas State. Horned Frogs have dropped 4 straight in Manhattan. I don't think they've won there since 2017. The story of this game is Josh Hoover turnovers. Drop backwards lateral results in a touchdown. Hoover has a pick 6, another interception. And under Sonny Dykes, TCU is 6-11 when losing the turnover battle, 25-4 when winning the turnover battle. So you get a despondent Josh Hoover at the podium who just gave an impassioned locker room speech talking about how he's failing the team right now. And he says, our team is only going to be as good as I play. And to that I say, true, Josh, and also that is unfair. Like, admirable of you. Yes, that's the problem. Honorable of you to fall on the sword, my man, but TCU is right now asking Josh Hoover to go play perfect hero ball for them to win games. And now we're going to throw Hoover under the bus when he doesn't play perfect hero ball.
In their wins this year, they're +6 in turnovers. In their losses, they are -5. Last year was +2 in wins, -8 in losses. 2023 was +1 in wins, -8 in losses. The TCU recipe for disaster is very obvious to see. When they lose, they turn the ball over and they can't run the ball or stop the run. And in both of the losses this year, they've been mirror images of each other. They've been road games against solid Big 12 teams. Against Arizona State, they lost the turnover battle 3-1 and the rushing battle 220-10. They lost that game. And then in Kansas State, they lose the turnover battle 3-0 and they lose the rushing war 145-72. They are outrushed 345 to 82 in the 2 losses this year. And I don't get why they abandoned the run. This wasn't a blowout the whole time. Like TCU was in it for a very large part of this game. Kevorian Barnes is averaging 6.8 yards a carry, and he only gets 12 carries. Like they threw the ball 47 times to 22. And so I looked this up because it was bothering me. In wins this year, they have 33.75 attempts. In losses, they have 23.5. Like some of that's a choice. That Arizona State game was a last-second field goal. That wasn't a blowout either. Like they were right in that game too, and they still threw the ball too much. And it goes back. Like last year in their 9 wins, they averaged 131 yards per game when they won. They averaged 73.5 when they lost. Like it's all about balance. Like when TCU can find balance, Josh Hoover in this passing game is tremendous and they win football games. When they can't, and it's connected too. It's not 2 separate issues. The not being able to run the ball is where the turnovers come from because you don't run the ball either by choice or because you can't. And then Josh Hoover has to throw the ball 45 times a game. And then he turns it over a couple of times. And then you're not good enough to overcome those. And that's been the pattern for TCU pretty much since the start of 2023.
I don't understand it either because Kendall Briles' offenses at Arkansas ran the rock. But they were top 5, top 10 almost every year in rushing offense. But it does seem like since he's gotten to TCU, they have this trend like you're pointing out. And I just think it's so unfair that Josh Hoover has to keep coming up to the podium being like, I failed everybody. This loss is on my shoulders when you're not being put in a situation to succeed, my man.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's the fix here because right now it feels like TCU is a super easy team to game plan for. Don't let them run the ball and play cloud coverage and force Josh Hoover into a bad mistake.
Well, the fix is Baylor's defense, and they play them on Saturday.
Yeah, that game is going to be 65-60.
Yeah, jump on the over early, like maybe today, before it climbs.
We talked about basketball with Kansas. Speaking of basketball, that score, TCU versus Baylor. All right, last Big 12 team. Houston beats Oklahoma State 39-17. The only note I have on this game is the shirtless section that starts with a brave 4 people and then expands into 2 full sections by the end of the game. Just magnificent stuff from the Cowboys fans.
Yeah, Connor Wegman looked really good. Amari Thomas had over 100 yards. That was a big game for him through the air. 157 yards, one of the biggest, I think, since Tank Dell. That's the most receiving yards a receiver at Houston has had. But Wegman was great. 21-30, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, had 177.7 rating. Just incredible. This was 10-10 with like 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And so the Cougars did kind of play with their food a little bit. You know, you lose that big game against Texas Tech at home. Now you're on the road in an empty stadium. You kind of have to bring your own juice. And it took them a little while to get revved up. But once they did, they rolled.
Let's go to the group of 6 teams now. And it's a tough week again. Texas State collapses in a 48-41 overtime loss to Troy.
Oh, we skipped one.
Oh, what's that?
SMU, Stanford.
Yes, SMU, Stanford. Thank you for reminding me. I don't have much, man. 34-10, that was a score. Like, Stanford's bad. Good for SMU. Blackout uniforms are sick.
I think, first of all, whoever thought of the blackout on 11 a.m. game in middle of October, shame on you. Like, Jesus. I was in a corny dog line at 11:30 at Red River, and in my mind, because I'm so Texas pilled, I was thinking about the SMU game. In my mind, I was like, how are people at the blackout right now? Like, 5 miles from this stadium, just standing like just bad. Save blackouts for night games. But I do think on the football field, the thing that I thought was great is defensively, they got some sacks. They haven't been getting a lot of pressure. They got 6 sacks in the game at 8 tackles for loss. And then offensively, they need some more playmakers. And Chris Johnson had a big game. Maybe that's the Stanford defense. But that long run, that long touchdown run he had, the 87-yard run, he looked like he was going at 2 times the speed as everybody else. Like he was fast, like a real player. And SMU kind of needs more of those explosive guys. And if Chris Johnson can grow into that, that's great.
All right. Now on to group of 6, Texas State. I'd have some thoughts here. It's a collapse 48-41 overtime loss to Troy. I say collapse because they squandered 2 17-point leads One was 28-7 in the first quarter, and then they're up 31-17 at half. Wait, that's a 14-point lead, actually. I'm a football guy, not a math guy.
Yeah, that's right. We're not dorks here. We don't know how to add and subtract.
The game starts off with Texas State leading Troy in the yards battle, 215-3, and they lose this game. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is the type of loss that could end your season, depending on how you respond.
Yeah, I mean, winning the Sun Belt West is going to be really, really tough here, especially if Troy continues to be good, because now they have the tiebreaker on you. I don't think you have to worry about that with Arkansas State, but you definitely do with Troy. You got to hope that they win or lose 3 games now, which seems like a tough task. You get outscored 41-13 after the first quarter, and you could look at that and say, well, the offense only scored 13 points after the first quarter. What is wrong with them? You should be able to score 41 points at home and win, no matter when those points happen. You should be able to score 41 points in the first quarter and not score again and win that football game. The defense has been bad. They're 3-6 now in October under Kenny, and I think like 19-6 otherwise. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but I know they're 3-6 in October. I don't know what that is, but that seems like a thing. You know, they've been starting off really hot. You know, they beat Baylor in 23. They beat UTSA in 24 and 25. They almost beat Arizona State in 24 as well in non-con. And then it kind of feels like as conference play gets started, they just have some of these games. You thought it would end after Arkansas State and they would bounce back. The way that they started, I kind of put it to the side. Like, oh, okay, the Arkansas State game woke them up. That was their blip on the season. They're going to get this going. Brad Jackson looks awesome. Look at that offense. They're up 28-7. Like I can pay attention to other stuff. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the score updates and you're like, what is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
That defense is not good. They allowed 415 passing yards, pretty much anything that Troy wanted over the last 3 quarters through the air they got. And for those of us who were a little bit down on Texas State going into this year, like that is why. I'm just not sure. I am of the belief that defense is mostly a personnel thing. Like, obviously, there's schematic stuff you got to do, and I'm not. But there's only like you can scheme an offense easier than you can scheme a defense in terms of scheming it to success when you have a personnel deficiency. I don't think Texas State has a lot of good players on the defensive side of the ball, and Arkansas State and Troy, and even like a UTSA and Arizona, like they haven't had much success over there unless the offense is giving it to them. And Troy woke up, figured it out, and just started rolling, and Texas State had no answer.
Yeah, anyone who's saying, hey, man, our offense kind of lost steam towards the end of the game, what's up with that? They were the second highest graded group of 6 offense with an 85.5 grade. They are leading the Sun Belt, scoring 36 points per game. Texas State's defense is surrendering 35.2 points per game if you take out the Nichols game, which I do. And then Troy quarterback Tucker Kilcrease, who I didn't even know who the starting quarterback was. And again, that's probably me not being tapped into the Sun Belt in Troy this year, but I had to look him up last podcast. And he had 416 total passing yards on the season. He threw for 415 yesterday. He matched his season total against the Texas State defense. What's up with, like, what is going on over there? I get it. The personnel is not good. Do you just chalk it up to, hey, the personnel wasn't good this year? Or is this a larger question about Dexter McCoyle?
It's probably both. It's probably a 2-pronged conversation. I think the personnel is not as good. I don't think you can lose those 4 defensive linemen and Joshua Eaton. I just don't think you can lose that kind of talent at Texas State and then get better, at least from a personnel standpoint. I think the other part here is Dexter McCoyle is a second-year defensive coordinator who is very young into his coaching career. Not a lot of experience.
He was playing like 4 years ago.
And like quarterbacks can start like gangbusters, and as people get more and more tape on them, they start to come back down to earth. I think that happens to coordinators as well, where you can get away with some stuff for a while. People start to see what you do, what your tendencies are, what you like, what gives you trouble. And then it's up to you to adjust off of that. And a lot of young quarterbacks, a lot of young coordinators, whether it be offensively or defensively, like they struggle when that first pitch is taken away because they've spent their whole careers developing that. And now they got to go do another thing. And I think that's hard for young guys. And that's why you typically do this for longer before you're like in charge of the defense. And I just think right now they're lacking answers for some stuff that's getting thrown their way. Because clearly teams are figuring stuff out as the game gets going, making adjustments to it, and then Texas State isn't able to adjust back. And that's why these teams are getting better as the game goes on against this defense.
I know G.J. Kinney has multiple years now gotten head coaching buzz for a Power 4 job. This is where you earn that buzz, I think. After you get punched in the mouth in October, how do you finish the rest of this season? Because we know the start of the year – the highs are really high at Texas State. And you could argue the lows, he hasn't had a low yet. I mean, they've made 2 back-to-back bowl games. It's the first time it's been done as an FBS program. But they lose conference games they should not lose. So That has to be fixed.
Yeah, he has raised the floor at Texas State. To truly raise the ceiling, they have to stop losing games in conference that they should win. And in a year that's going to have so many openings, there's 7 now. Penn State opened today. If Kenny doesn't get a big job and it's not his choice, like if Kenny doesn't get a job he wants, it's going to be because of games like this, right? Like if you're a prospective employer, it's this kind of stuff that you're worried about. And if you're a Texas State fan, it's this kind of stuff because you should be better than 500 in the Sun Belt during his tenure. Like you've been a better football team than that, but you just have some of these performances and we'll see if it's able to fix it like this year. Because if it's really mostly a personnel thing on defense, I don't know how you fix it. And you just got to outscore teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real quick on the Penn State job opening. And again, real quick, because it's not our beat at all. But like, why is Matt Rule the penciled in favorite right now to take the Penn State job?
Because he played there.
Okay. I didn't know that.
He's an alum from there, Northeastern guy. What he did at Temple, I think resonates in that region. I think if you're a Penn State fan, you're aware of the difficulties at Temple and you're like, holy crap, that dude won at Temple. If you can win at Temple, imagine what you can do at Penn State. It's like if you were dominant at Texas State or something like that. And it's like if you can do that at Texas State, imagine what you can do at Texas type of deal. And so I think that's a big part of it. And I think he's more well-respected in the industry than sometimes he is by fans. That's my opinion on Rule. Like Rule is football coaches and the guys who hire football coaches effing love Matt Rule. And they make the decisions.
And you hear about it too from his time at Baylor. And I know he's really tight with Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. So he is definitely well-respected. And that just shows my ignorance of not knowing the situation. But I just saw Matt Rule as like the number one candidate. I'm like, why? Like, what is Nebraska hasn't been amazing.
Yeah. I think Matt Campbell is another name that's probably going to get thrown around there. It's interesting because I'm obsessed with kind of the hierarchy of coaching stuff and like where on the ladder things are and like what the Penn State job is. And I always, when these kind of jobs open, I always try to think to myself, who is the biggest sitting head coach that job could go poach? And if it's Penn State, it probably is a Nebraska or an Iowa State. It's probably not it's not an LSU or, probably not going to go get like Brian Kelly unless he wants to restart the clock. Anyway, we're getting into the weeds. But the trickle down effect, I don't think we're going to have any firings in the state this year. Maybe if Baylor bottoms out, but I don't think they will. I think that's going to work out. It'd be fine enough. Maybe not for the fans, but for the administration. I don't think we're going to have any firings this year in the state of Texas, but I do think we're going to have some movement because there's going to be 15 jobs that open. Mm-hmm. And that's going to cause another 15 jobs to open.
All right, let's get back in our lanes with UTSA versus Rice. Back in our sweet spot here. UTSA scores 61 in 3 quarters. UTSA has never lost a conference game at home. And, hey, Craven, y'all want Burke and Lepp and Traylor and McCown fired? Huh? I'm not saying you did specifically. I'm just saying the proverbial y'all.
Yeah, if I thought that UTSA, one of two things was going to happen in this game. Either it was going to bottom out and UTSA was going to lose to Rice at home, and it was going to be the ultimate, like, holy cow, where has this program gone? Or UTSA was going to win by 40. Like, it was going to be one of the other. Clearly, it was the latter.
Yeah, Rice had 3 quarterbacks injured, which is not a recipe for success. By the end of the game, Patrick Creighton Jr., the son of the former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, is in. Can't remember the last time I've seen 3 quarterbacks get injured in one game. It's pretty hard.
The bright spots for Rice were Dalen Alexander. Running back had 12 carries for 129, had some success there running the football. I guess with Rice, they started off really hot. We just had the conversation about the core. I think it's another example of teams are starting to see it with this personnel. It's not surprising anymore. They know what they can do well. They know where they can take advantage of it, and that offense is losing steam a little bit. This was the worst performance of the defense. The defense has been pretty good. They hadn't given up more than 27 to a G5 defense all year. UTSA was just clearly motivated. Like, this was Rice walked into a buzzsaw. I think this says more about what UTSA had been dealing with all week than anything about Rice.
Yeah, you could tell they have heard the noise big time around their program, and they exorcised some demons on Rice.
And now they get to go to North Texas this week, and
tasty.
If you want to get all those burner accounts online back in your favor, if you're Jeff Traylor, you go to Denton, you win that football game. Right. Mm-hmm. And so if you're UTSA, it's still right there in front of you. And conversely, if you're North Texas, like, this feels, you can't let this slide. One game can't become 2-game type of deal. So a big one this week in the American.
All right. So UTSA's offense goes nuclear. UTEP's offense goes subterranean. I guess I don't know what the opposite of nuclear is. They score 8 points in a 19-8 game against Liberty. I genuinely think Sam Houston might beat them next week. Like, that is a clear – I don't know if it's the Anxiety Bowl, because the Anxiety Bowl is like whoever loses, the coach is getting fired. I don't think either coach is getting fired, but wow, has this season not gone how I thought it was going to go for UTEP.
Yeah, winless against the FBS. You got 3 home games in a row. You had to win 1. You probably should have won 2. Instead, you lose all 3. Scotty Walden was hired to change 2 things. He was supposed to add energy to this program, i.e. recruiting and stuff. Check. And he was supposed to add excitement by scoring a bunch of points. Dana Dimel averaged 21.5 points per game offensively during his tenure there. Scotty Walden, through 18 games, is at 19.23.
And it's getting worse.
The offense, you're right. And that is the part that is the most concerning, is that it's not giving you a lot of hope to where, you fix this one thing or you can see a glimpse here. Like, it's just not good. It is regressing. The quarterbacks are playing worse and worse each week. Like, and I watched this game because it's midweek, right? And so you get to watch every single play, which is why I love the smaller conferences doing midweek stuff. They couldn't block. Like, they still can't block anybody. And so, I don't know. We talk about, like, even at a school like Texas, when you can't block anybody, like, what can you play call? Like, what can you scheme up when you can't block anybody? But 18 games in, I don't think you look at this Scotty Walden offense and feel like he's going to scheme you to some kind of success anytime soon. And that's concerning because, we're closing in on 2 years.
Yeah, the conversation online, at least what I see from UTEP fans, is basically like, here's Scotty Walden's playbook, and it's halfback draw on Madden. They are – no one that I see is like, hey, give it time. I see kernels of success that I can latch onto. It is full on like, what the hell is this? What is the play calling? It's not even, hey, we're not executing. It's like the play calls are not giving our players a chance to win. And I agree with you. The offensive line is not good, and that probably affects his play calling big time, and he probably can't open up the playbook like he really wants to. But also, it's kind of on him for the offensive line being that poor in year 2.
Yeah, because, Dimel proved you can get an offensive line at UTEP. Like, they were always highly graded. They were always, not huge because it's UTEP, but like, they were always a solid unit there. It was everything else. But yeah, I was there when UTEP revealed their lockers to their players. And that was the first day of like football practice or like check-in, like coming back from the fall, everybody's there, coaches give their PowerPoint slides and all that kind of stuff. And the payoff was surprising them with the new locker room. Well, the slides in the PowerPoint from Scotty Walden in his kind of introduction to kind of fall season was like, we are scoring points. Like my offense scores points. We're moving fast. We're being aggressive. We're going to be explosive. We're going down the field. We're going to make defenses cover us 52 yards wide and 100 yards deep. Like we're attacking every single point. It's kind of Baylor-ish, right? It's kind of Art Briles-esque in that, at least in theory. And it just hadn't materialized. I remember they put up a bunch of stats and showed the team, here's how much we've been scoring. And here, like never again, right? We're never, and not only has it not gotten better at it, it's gotten a little bit worse, and so I don't know. This was a winnable schedule for UTEP. It felt like one that set up well for them. Their defense has been solid.
Yeah, defense, good job. You made Liberty kick 4 field goals.
The offense just has not carried their weight.
Offense had 167 total yards. I think I'm done with Malachi Nelson. I don't think he's as mobile as Skylar Locklear, and whether he can't perform because the offensive line is not good, that's probably true. I just don't think it's working with Nelson in there, and I think they're going to keep switching him back and forth, which is honestly a not good spot to be in. I don't think you should be rotating quarterbacks mid-game like that, but
I think Locklear suits this team better because they can't block anybody and they need somebody that can just go make plays.
He accounted for all their plays over 10-plus yards. It was 4 on the ground and 1 in the air. He has a mobility threat that Malachi Nelson does not have.
He's got some juice to him.
Yeah.
It's not always going to look great, but he kind of reminds me of Hunter Watson, honestly.
God, Skylar Locklear and Hunter Watson next week is going to be awesome. It's going to be so sweet.
A real sicko game. Like a true, like in Shell Energy Stadium with probably 300 people and 100 of those are stadium staffers. That is going to test how much you love football. That's an Emory Hunt game. You know Emory Hunt? Do you know who Emory Hunt is?
No.
He's like, I don't want to get into the weeds. I love Emory. This is not me making fun of him, but he's like very high horsey on like, if you don't watch European football, like, do you really love football? You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Like how much do you really love it? I'm watching this shit in March, I'm
watching the AAF right now.
Right. I joke all the time. Like, do you really love football or do you really love the helmets? Wednesday night UTEP Sam Houston is testing even how much I love the game of football, and I'm paid to do this.
It's gonna be appointment viewing for this podcast, though.
I can't wait. I've
already
told my wife. All right, told my wife, hey, Wednesday, I'm out 7 p.m. to about 11 p.m. Count me out.
She comes in the living room and it's 9 to 6.
I got my hands over my eyes like I'm watching a horror movie. Like, it's a slasher film. Don't let Lucy see the film. Don't let Lucy see the TV. This is a snuff film. Like, this is not good. This is very bad.
So all right, let's talk about Sam Houston. Just a heartbreaker. 29-27 to Jacksonville State. On the game they played good in this game. These were the type of losses that they had in the first year in the FBS when they started 0-8. And you're like, you know what? This team is more unlucky than not good. This one, they're still probably more not good than unlucky, but a last-second 52-yard field goal by Garrison Ripa to lose the game. It's tough.
Yeah, I think the football thing to discuss here was that last sequence that led into the field goal kick. They're right outside. Jack State is probably 5 to 6 yards outside of field goal range. But Sam Houston thinks they're going to kick a field goal, gets the field goal stuff on there. Like, they're not really set up to guard that 5-yard out that Jack State ran to get into better field goal range. So they didn't kick that 52-yard field goal. I don't think they can make it from 57, but they make it from 52. And that's just the other team pulling one off, right? That's just good coaching, good situational awareness from Jack State to kind of notice Sam Houston's thinking the field goal is coming. Let's run the offense real quick, get 5 yards when they're kind of back waiting for the Hail Mary. And Jack State got one over on them. And that was tough. That was a tough way to end. And it's one of those losses that you think breaks a team, right? Like, you're 0-5. You need something to go well. You're down 10-0 at one point. You're down 17-7 at another point in the first half. You claw your way back in. You fight. Hunter Watson plays a good game. I thought the offense showed some flashes there in a way that they hadn't, especially through the air. And it's right there for you. You're going to win. You're going to feel good. You got UTEP coming in. Maybe you can start a little bit of a winning streak. And then you allow that last drive and that last little pop play, and then they hit a 52-yard field goal to walk it off basically on you. And as from the outside, you wonder how they're going to pick themselves up off the mat. It felt like they had like one more punch and they're done. Like, you ever see Varsity Blues?
Just watched it the other night. It's about to leave Netflix. I had to get it in.
Or Ricky Bobby, he can't take one more hit.
Yes.
That's going to be the end of it. That felt like Sam Houston, where it's like they're out on their feet. If they get punched one more time, this thing is done. It looked like they were going to escape, and then they just got drilled with one they didn't see coming. And I'm with you. That's like, I don't know if UTEP's that much better of a football team, and I don't like. How crazy it is to say that I think UTEP's in a better mental spot than Sam Houston is. I just don't know how Sam recovers from that. And it's going to take a hell of a coaching job to do so.
That one, as the ball's going through the uprights, it's just it's not your year, man. It's just not your year.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's a tough one for Sam. There was nobody there.
The stadium shots were not great.
Yeah. So
it was already going to be hard to get fans to Shell Energy Stadium on the complete opposite side of Houston. I mean, that is a bear of a drive. And when the team is winless, you're not going to draw a big crowd.
I almost said something without context would have been awful to clip. I was almost going to be like, man, I wish I didn't have a daughter. But I don't mean overall. I just mean a different version of me who was allowed to leave anytime I wanted to, right, without putting an untold amount of stress on my wife. I would drive to this game and just interview people in the stands and just be like, why? Tell me your story, because something happened to lead you here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It is there is something interesting going on here if you're at Shell Energy Stadium right now for Sam Houston, UTEP. And so that is how I would, anybody out there that's going to go cover that game, feel free to take that story idea and run with it. I would love to read it. If I would just go find 5 or 6 people in the stands and be like, tell me why you're here.
It's kind of like a TikTok I saw where, some person takes a 6 a.m. flight to Chicago and the flight's almost full. And she's like, how are there people on this flight? Are people real? Who is at the airport right now at 6 a.m. to go to this flight that I have to go to? That's what I feel Shell Energy Stadium is on a Wednesday night. Yes, I would love to read that story. How is the person real?
And if it was a parent, I would just be like, oh, okay, thank you for your time, and move on to the next one. I want to know why non-parents are there. So yeah.
I want to see the guy with his belly painted there. Right. I want to talk to him.
Right.
My last note on that game was Cam Cook with the all-time, that guy's a former Big 12 running back performance. 31 carries for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns.
It's amazing what dropping down a level can do, right? Because he was a relatively average Big 12 running back, and he is Herschel Walker when he's playing in conference.
He kind of got ran off TCU's team a little bit. It was kind of like, all right, you're getting demoted if you come back next year.
Yep.
And he looks like Barry Sanders on the Detroit Lions.
Incredible.
All right.
He's like the varsity kid that got in trouble, and now he's got to play JV football until he gets back into the coach's good graces or whatever. And you're like, why is this 4-star playing on Thursday? That's Cam Cook.
Yeah, that happened to me my sophomore year when I was on JV. We had a senior who was probably 6'1", 230 and transferred from another school and had to play JV football while his transfer process was going through. And our first game, we're down 14 points. I'm like, guys, we have an all district like former future college football player on it. Let's just give him the ball.
Hand him the rock. What are we doing? Why is Carter Yates running so many plays here? Let's give him the ball. My first job out of college, I did a lot of minor league baseball stuff because I was near Run Rock Express, and you could freelance do it. And like every now and then there would be like a professional player like rehabbing down there, and you're like, oh, there's the difference. Like it would just sound different, like coming off the bat and stuff. That was Cam Cook. He went down a level, and all of a sudden nobody could throw a curveball, and he was just feasting.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go do it for a packed Week 6 recap. A lot of big
Week 7.
Oh, I said Week 6. Week 7. It's mid-season now.
It's crazy. Yeah, we're putting out the mid-season All-Texas team coming out this week.
That should be an easier time to get G6 players on that mid-season team, right? Because
not when they're all bad.
Yeah, that's also true. It's going to be fighting, scratching, clawing for some of those.
Yeah.
For Mike Craven, senior college writer, I am Carter Yates. We'll be back on Wednesday morning with a preview of next week's slate. Got some big-time matchups coming up. UTSA, North Texas, I'm checking in on. I'm really excited for. Craven, what's your most exciting game next week?
Texas Tech at Arizona State feels like a big one. Although Arizona State just got crushed by Utah. We'll see what Sam Levitt's health is. Like if Jeff Sims is playing, then it's not that big of a game. And then TCU Baylor. Now, both of those teams are 4-2. I think both of them are still clinging to some Big 12 life and hope. Well, the loser of that game doesn't have any anymore. And so that is a true eliminator game. Now the winner's 5-2, and I don't know if their fan base is going to feel that great about it. So that'll be kind of interesting there. But yeah, I think that one's a big one. Then like UTSA, North Texas. Oh, SMU at Clemson.
Yeah, that's huge too.
It's been a little while since we've had to pay attention to an SMU game. Like they haven't been challenged. Like they haven't been on the field with somebody since TCU that could really give him any trouble. That was September 20th. So it's going to be the first time in a month where there's a meaningful SMU game where we can draw some conclusions. So that's a big one as well.
A big, exciting week 8 coming up. Man, it's flying by. Hold on tight. We'll have you covered the rest of the year. Senior writer Mike Craven. I am Carter Yates signing off for the Dave Campbell's College Football Podcast.